Here we're going to try and create a tunnel mouth. What I'm going to do is, as you can see here, I've boxed in the area that I'm going to pack in with rolled up newspaper. My tunnel mouth is actually going to sit out a bit here, so I've put a bit of cardboard in because my tunnel is slightly lower than my baseboard here. So I've put a bit of cardboard in, and the tunnel mouth is here. Sorry, I just wasn't sure where I laid it down there. So that's a tunnel mouth. It was just one that I picked up off of eBay. I've chopped it down to size. It's just made of thin plastic. So what we're going to do is we'll put the tunnel mouth in there, and that'll give you an idea roughly how it's going to look. I've put blue tack on it just to hold it in place, but once the plaster Paris and everything's set, you'll find that you won't need the blue tack, but just leave it in there anyway, because it won't do any harm. Just make sure that everything's lying square and sitting true, which is not really the easiest thing to do. There we go, and that's it sitting there. You also get the likes of the side walls, which we'll be fixing on later. You get two of them. Right, here's a newspaper that I've gotten, just an ordinary newspaper, and we're just scrunching it up into nice tight balls, and we're just going to pack it in like this. What we're going to do now here is I've moulded a bit rock face. Doesn't look that great, but once it's painted it should look alright. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roughly lay the rock face in where I'm wanting it. Then that gives me an idea of where to pack the rest of my paper. That way I've got a nice base for the rock face to sit. The stage we need to do is we need strips of paper. So what I've actually done is I've got the newspaper, rather than cut each bit individual, just keep your paper folded like that and just cut your strips. And if you do that, that saves you a lot of time, because now you've got a multitude of strips of paper. So we've actually done quite a few earlier, just to save a lot of time. So as you can see, you will need a few. It does look a bit papery and doesn't look like it's going to be anything, but believe me, once we start getting the plaster Paris with a newspaper mix on it and start blending everything in, it should actually turn out quite good, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Right, here I've got a nice mixture of plaster Paris and water. What I've got is quite a liquidy mixture, just because it dries that quickly. And what I'm going to do, sometimes you can actually use wallpaper paste, which I've used quite a lot of in the past. This is not exactly one way that I do quite often, but then all you want to do is you just soak your newspaper in and just keep adding layers to what you've done there, and just make sure you've got a nice mixture on there. And for the wee small indentation there, I'll just make sure that my newspaper sits into the side. You might find your paper will break up a bit, but don't worry too much about that, because you'll never see it once you put enough layers on it. And we'll just keep building up the layers here. And so a few layers on. What I sometimes do is I just add a bit of dry paper in and just keep going over it like that. Just keep adding bits of dry paper in. Helps build up, take most of the moisture away that you've just added. Then what you can do is you just take a small handful of your plaster of Paris and just spread it about with your fingers like that. And you just keep doing that. Also do it as well, is to help strengthen everything up, as might be a good idea to actually lay some of your strips the opposite way, and that should actually help strengthen everything up a bit. That way, when it all dries, it should actually be relatively solid. And that's this. Right, what I've went and done now is I've went and put the newspaper strips and all that down, but to help bond it together I've gotten some old like gauze bandage, and I'm soaking that into plaster of Paris as well, which is actually going a bit watery now, and I'm spreading that across over the top all the newspaper that I've done, and that actually helps strengthen it all up. You can actually buy what they call Modrock strips. It's like a giant bandage. It's got plaster of Paris on it, and it does the same job as what I'm doing here. I've just had plenty of old bandages kicking about, and I've had plaster of Paris kicking about, so I just thought I'd do it this way just now because it's a wee bit more cheaper for me to do it that way. But if you want, you can actually go out and buy what you're looking for. As you can see, everything's starting to dry nicely here. It's all starting to bond together properly, how I was hoping it would. Okay. What I'm doing now is just putting a coating of plaster of Paris over the top of everything, and that should give me a nice solid base for putting all my scenery on. Outside's not perfect, so it doesn't really matter if you do a perfect finish or not, because at the end of the day you've got to remember you're going to be putting grass on it, and the rock bits are going to be painted grey, and they'll have bits of grass on them and that, so you don't need to be absolutely perfect at this bit, because like I say, all you need to do is have a look round about you at the hillsides round about yourself, and you'll see, is it perfect? Probably not. So this is what we've gotten so far. Can't really do much else until this is all dried. I'm going to take the tunnel mouth back out again, give it a good clean up. Once it's all dried, then I'll get it glued into place. Then hopefully after that we could start painting the hillside and see what we've got.
So here it is, as you can see, the finished mountainside. Got a little bit of grass in, some mountain moulds, just of some rock faces. Got a couple of trees, a little bit of hairy grass, a little bit of kind of moss, as you can see there. So decided to change the look of it a little bit, because the artist wasn't very happy with the way he'd done it. As you can see here, we've got a couple of old stinky stuff. For example, the washing machine. As you can see here, there's a mountainscape in the making. Got all the tools here he needs to keep going with his projects. Right, thanks for watching the video. Bye.